It's May 31st, 2026. I like to come to Rock Meadow on May 30th or 31st. It kind of became like a little, tradition is the right word, but I didn't do it on purpose. I just kind of found myself here at the end of May several years in a row, so now I do it on purpose. It's a nice little migration wrap up. Yesterday was crazy. We had some storm blowing a bunch of stuff inland. I wasn't at Parker River, but there were probably dozens of phalaropes, black tern, really cool stuff. Yeah, there's still some stuff moving through here and there. Like, just got a report this morning. There's a morning warbler at Parker River. I think so, between Parker River and Sandy Point. Yeah. It doesn't, I don't know, this may pass by really fast, and I know I keep saying as I get older, time passes faster, like it does for everyone. But this May was, I don't know, most of the times I come here, May 30th and 31st, it feels like, oh yeah, it's basically summer now. It's like the end of, migration. Summer's ready to begin, ready to start really having my, switching to kind of like that summer type of mode with trips and stuff like that. And it feels like it's over. This, it feels like May's at an end. This year, not really, because things were delayed by how cold it was. The first week of May was just not warm and at all. Even for May, it was just, I think May, at least here in Massachusetts, I think people over the winter, they think of May as being this really warm month, and the first week is never as warm as you think it's going to be. And then you remember, oh yeah, same with April. April's always cooler than you remember it being, but you're just looking forward to it from the depths of winter, and so you fool yourself into thinking it's going to be really warm and mild, and usually May is fairly cool. And same with May. So April's usually cool. May's usually, the first week is usually not in the 70s or anything like that. It's usually on the cooler side. But this year it was cold. It wasn't somewhat cool. It was chilly, freezing. And I don't think we had frost, but there were a lot of nights where it was like 34, I think, 35, right in there, and a lot of the days weren't that warm. And then I think it was like May 15th, 16th, so it hadn't had that big push of migrants come through. And then the 15th I remember was pouring out. It was Mari's birthday party, which went well. Thank goodness we rented a pavilion at a park. But yeah, the 16th, warm weather came in, and it was just like every migrant descended on a 16th, 17th. I was here on the 17th, I believe. 18th, 19th. It was just mobbed everywhere for like 3-4 days. And the graph on the birdcast migration thing showing the total migrants that moved through, we went from behind schedule, and there was like a line straight up on the graph for total migrants that have passed. And it was like, and all of a sudden by like the 17th, 18th, we were actually at where we usually were by the 31st. And granted, those last few days of May, it's usually like a plateau, but it was wild how much moved through. And then after that, it kind of tailed off. There was still stuff moving through every day at Parker River. There was stuff being seen, but it was like ones and twos, like one really interesting thing, two really interesting things. And by and large, like the passer-in migration was largely, like a bulk of it was over. It felt almost like by the 20th or so, it was like just stragglers left, 20th, 21st. And that's usually like post-peak, but it's usually still stuff moving through. And this year was just like empty. And that's not to say there wasn't stuff here and there, but like there was no gentle slope down this year, and there was no gentle slope up either. It was just this big spike up over a few days, and then it just dropped, and that was it. And again, because those were warm days. We had a couple of warm days there, and I think early last week, like Monday, Tuesday, was like in the 80s, like high 80s even, and then it kind of cooled off again. It just, like yesterday was chilly. Yesterday was chilly. I think the day before that was too. Today is going to be like, I think 70, but then tomorrow, June 1st, high 60s. I think the low is going to be in the 40s, mid-low 40s. And then after that, it looks like summer finally arrives. We have some low 80s, like 81, high 70s, 81, 82, 83, right in there. So so it feels like we've actually gotten like summer. Summer's coming, or even late spring. And but today, so it's May 31st, and it doesn't really, I don't know, it just doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel like May 31st to me, because it's been so cool out. Like, it feels more like, I don't know what it feels like. It doesn't quite feel like early May, because we've had all the migrants surge through, but the weather doesn't have that feel to it. Like, I'm in a long sleeve shirt right now, just because it's probably gonna be cooler when I go over into Beaver Brook underneath the trees. So it's like a very cool May, and they said we were in drought for the early part of it. I don't know how that's possible. We had a lot of rain up where we were, and then like over the last week again, we had, like yesterday, I mean, it poured out, and then I think Friday night, Saturday night, into most of Saturday, it was, until like the Saturday evening, there was a lot of rain. I think we got over 2 inches. Had a wheelbarrow outside Friday, and by yesterday afternoon, it was, even the shallow part of it, the part that's tipped up a bit, that part looked like it had a couple inches in it, and the deep part had like 4 inches in it. So it's probably like 2.5, 3 inches of rain we got, which we needed, I guess, apparently, because they say we're in a drought. But yeah, so this migration was just like I said, the delay, and then that big peak is kind of how I'm gonna remember it, like that. Yeah, this is the quick peak of the year to me. Like, every year I try to come up with some way to remember it. Like, we had like the Tennessee Warbler year a couple of years ago, and last year was the double peak, where we had a peak around the usual time, stuff died, and then looked like it was over, and then we had a second peak around 23rd, 24th. I think that was last year. So stuff like that. And remember 2013 was no migration, basically, because the weather just moved against us, and we had like nothing. And then 2014 made up for it, and then some. It was like a monster peak. That was probably the best migration I've ever seen in my life. But this year was probably the highest peak I've ever seen. That was wild. I mean, people were going to Parker River for like 6-7 hours and coming away with like 120 species. Just wild. So yeah, but still, like, it just, I don't know. But then after that, like I said, it kind of just tailed off, and the weather got cool again. And so, early May, we had a couple of, or not early May, but like, I don't know, what was like the 9th or 10th, we had a couple of days in like the 80s or 90s, and then 17th, 16th, 17th, right now we had a couple of days in the, I think, 80s, and then it cooled off again. And then last week, a couple of days in the 80s, and then it cooled off again. It was just like these little false starts, and it wasn't cooling off into like the 70s, it was cooling off into like the 50s, 60s, like low 60s. And so it was just, I don't know, kind of felt like just felt different this year. And so I'm here right now in Rock Meadow on May 31st, and I think of the May 31st, 30th in the past that I've come here for, and it just feels like different. It just feels like early mid-spring still instead of late spring. I kind of can't believe it's over. Like, I don't know. I'm tired like I usually am at the end of May, but not as much, because usually I'm getting up really early for, at least from like the 10th right through like the 26th, 27th. But this year, like the last week, I've went out a couple of times, but not like, not like super. I didn't do a ton of trips, just because like I would go out, I'm like, all right, it's nice. I like being at like Mount Auburn or here or wherever, or Parker River. But I'm just like, well, there isn't as isn't as much out right now. Kind of looks like there's not a ton to see, so I'd get up a little bit later, and sure enough, reports indicated I didn't really miss anything. So I'm better rested than I usually am right around now, which is nice. All right, let's see what's here. Doesn't sound like much. Haven't heard anything. Yeah, see what we get. It's always good to be at Rock Meadow and Beaverbrook North.